Black men actually did vote the way feminists wanted them to.
They voted for Democrats, as they traditionally have.
Yeah, the majority of black men who did vote. Now, the real question is how many didn't. But for those who did, they voted the way feminists wanted them to. And it's still, and what I think they're discovering, and this is what I call a black masculinist turn, what they're discovering is that even when you do what you're asked to do, what do you get for it?
Now, how long did you know him before you married him?
Well, it's been like, what, a year and a half?
Before you married him?
Yeah.
Okay. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4.
Man, that's it right there. That's it.
So you have 4 women that have more than one child with
that's
you.
It.
This was before any of the data had come out. Immediately, black men were blamed.
Of course, it's always Jermaine's fault.
So it's, so I think, but and then when the data came out to show that we actually did vote the way we were, was there any kind of widespread apology, acknowledgement? There was none of that. It was silence.
The silence, yeah.
So I think what you had is a moment where black men are like, you know what, even if I'm not online, I don't know what the manosphere is, I don't know what this is, a red pill or any of that. What do I get for this?
We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 babies' mothers.
And I think too often, because he was a prominent black man and we're overly protective, I think, as a community, as a culture, about what befalls prominent black men, right?
You see what I'm saying? You see?
Yeah.
He may be talking to industries, but notice how the finger gets outwardly pointed at black men.
Oh, you gotta have a villain, right?
This is ridiculous. Here we go.
Now, Miss Cotton, if you knew we had these many children while you were dating, what made you think good husband material?
To be honest, I feel that I was young at the time, and I believe that he preys on young women. I'm not saying he's not a horrible man, but...
when you say he preys on young women, what do you mean?
I was 20 years old. He told me everything I wanted to hear.
Because somehow we think that protecting and creating a context to understand them, it's more of a benefit to our community, to the race. I think in leading with that, we miss fundamental issues around violence against women, the role of patriarchy and misogyny and sexism in our lives, and how violence against black women becomes an afterthought.
A deadly double shooting in Liberty City. It happened over the weekend. Police say 31-year-old Antoine Carter killed his girlfriend's 2 brothers after a fight. One brother died at the scene. The other died at the hospital. Carter is being charged with first-degree murder.
I think about, for instance, in a separate space, when we see young white women who were killed by folks who are immigrants, and how that bubbles up to a national conversation because it's connected to this larger discourse about immigration in the country. We rarely see violence against black women bubble up to that level of conversation.
A new boyfriend is dead, and an ex-boyfriend is now facing a murder charge. This is a case out of Bridgeport, Connecticut, and that victim is Terrence Kramer. He was a 10-year veteran of the Bridgeport Fire Department, and he was shot and killed on Saturday in the middle of the night. And according to court documents, he was at the home of his new girlfriend at the time.
And so I was happy to see, and happy is probably the wrong word, the number of black women scholars and journalists, some of them that I knew, who spoke back very forcefully to the framing of the story of these killings.
Right. I mean, you mentioned this. There's a lot of focus in these incidents around specifically the mental health of these men, sometimes more than the tragedy itself. You don't find that to be the appropriate response to the wake of these incidents.
A man killed his wife, and I'm talking about Fairfax in this context. How do we not lead with that conversation?
Now, that woman's ex, Jabari Bush, who was in court yesterday, he is the one accused of shooting Kramer while he was in bed with his ex-girlfriend. So we're learning that the woman and Jabari Bush were in a relationship for about 5 years. They ended it in March of 2025, but they had an on and off again relationship until she ended it for good in January of this year. And then in February, she started to date Terrence Kramer.
That a man chose to kill his wife with his children in the home. Now, we could have a conversation about whether or not I or anybody else believes that patriarchy is a form of mental illness
She had no contact, she says, with Jabari Bush, she tells police, until she heard from him in March of this year, when he started to call her repeatedly to the point where she had to block him. But this is what she tells police. She says in the middle of the night, she sees someone in her bedroom while she's sleeping with Kramer, and she knows that it is her ex-boyfriend. And he yells something to the effect of, "You're here with another man," and then punches her in the face. And then she tells police she sees sparks. And that is when she hears Kramer say, "I just got shot." Kramer ultimately dies from that gunshot wound. And now Jabari Bush is being held on a $3 million bond, and he can have absolutely no contact with his ex-girlfriend.
You know, if we want to have a conversation about mental illness, let's talk about the role that patriarchy plays in informing mental illness and misogyny.
Okay, BGS.
Yes.
Patriarchy is a mental illness.
Of course, salute to Dr. Tiesan Johnson and BGS Ibmore. You heard the point being made about how patriarchy is a mental illness. When I think of the word patriarchy, the first word that comes to my mind is order. There's a way that things are done, and if they are not done in that way, there are repercussions that come from a man who has something to protect. But if you take all of those rules away, one of the commonalities in the stories we heard in this video is that if the young lady is dealing with some guys that maybe she shouldn't be dealing with, maybe they were raised by their mothers without having any fathers in the home, and they don't have a good emotional control, or they have a hair trigger in terms of how they choose to react because they think that a young lady and her body belongs to him, then you get these conversations about how men are out of control when this is second, third generation of men not being raised by men. And young ladies doing what they want to with their bodies, with whom they choose to, without any kind of social filter on the kind of guys that they're doing these things with. And so you hear story after story of the issue is that these men are out of control when maybe, because things didn't used to be this way, what if the problem is that there isn't enough patriarchy and there aren't enough rules, and that because all of those rules have been swept away, the issue is that people are acting solely on emotion now without any kind of rules or regulation that men put in place to keep things, again, in order.
Because this man has a proven record being dangerous, violent, abusing women, is a drug dealer, and a criminal. He wants to unalive my sister. He does. He's tried several times, you guys. So, you know, I'm trying my best to stay strong because I am, and we are. I think that we should have to go through this alone, and I have this platform, so I'm going to use it to spread awareness. This is why I advocate for women's health. This is why I advocate for mental health and for healing, because you guys don't know what people deal with in the background. My sister is sick to this day because of this man. Currently fighting for her life, left the state. She can't even come back now. Because he's getting out, they told her she can't come back. And now my house has to be geo-mapped. That's the type of man they're letting out of jail. A real dangerous person.
Patriarchy is a mental illness. Now, you and I have talked about over the years, and you've done this with Green Gorilla, and you've done this by yourself, the conversation about historical patriarchy.
Right.
Now it's being reframed as a mental illness. So you've had thousands of years of patriarchy, but by the time feminists get to it, especially around, after the 1970s,
right,
the concept becomes a problem that needs to be removed.
Okay.
Now what we're hearing in this conversation is that it needs to now be addressed as a form of mental illness.
Right.
Tell me your thoughts about how this system that's thousands of years old now becomes mental illness.
I think is that they don't want to get rid of the patriarchy. They actually want the patriarchy to actually serve them. They want patriarchal submission by men, like child support, like resources and stuff like that. By what they really want is to actually fold it into the greater what I call the state gynocracy. But like I said, you have to have a boogeyman.
The real reason why men hate women that are ran through, hoes, sluts, prostitutes, whatever you want to call it, right? Is because it's proof that you can't make a woman submit through sex. It's proof that being the receptive position, being penetrated, does not make you conquerable. That sex cannot conquer a woman. And that's why men hate sexually promiscuous women, because men use sex as a tool to control women, to control their emotions, to control their action, to control their behavior, to control the way that they show up in relationships.
The older I get, the more I understand the fire and brimstone preachers of the South that would have us in the summer going to church 6-7 days a week and preaching until late in the afternoon and having a very fiery message about if you have sex out of wedlock, if you lust, if you do the things that the Bible tells you not to do, you're going to burn in eternal damnation. Do I think that that's the worst thing that can happen to you? As a kid, it's kind of scary, I'll admit that, but as an adult, not really. But I can understand using it as a deterrent, because what is the alternative? Is this. It's I do whatever I want to do with my body, and if someone has an issue with it, or the outcome from men or a variety of men or the children that come out of this particular issue, that's not my problem. That's the problem of everyone around me. But then when you need to call on community, it's not there, because this is a young lady trying to basically use, I don't know, logic, I guess, to try and say that the reason why men don't like promiscuous women is because they can't control them. And it's not really that men don't like promiscuous women. It's just that men are wary of them, that young lady might be with 3, 4, 5 different other men at the same time. And one of those men might catch feelings, and he might come to your house later in the night and think that you're in the bed with his girl, and it can get dangerous. And so guys just don't see the kind of need to protect those young ladies because, quite frankly, it's dangerous.
And so when a woman can have sex with a man, leave him where he stand, never talk to his bitch ass again, that proves that a woman cannot be conquered through sex alone. And so to them, that's a broken woman. Oh, I couldn't make her submit to me. That didn't make me the center of her world. In their minds, that's a broken woman, but it's not. It's proof that sex cannot conquer women. That being penetrated does not make you vulnerable, does not make you emotionally weak, does not make you submissive by nature. And men hate that. That's why they hate hoes. That's why they hate sluts. Because they think that sex is domination. And so when they don't have control over that woman after they sleep with her, then they realize that women aren't submissive.
Baby, me and you dance you.
Okay.
This one, wait.
What's this, baby? What's this? Congratulations.
You've spent years telling boys they're toxic. Now, when you add that toxicity speech to black boys who you told weren't shit for the last few decades, what do you think what do you think comes from that? I mean, we're already hearing the complaints that they don't protect, they don't do what. I mean, okay, but you've been telling them they're monsters. You've been telling them they weren't shit.
Yeah.
You've been telling them they'll never become anything. And then, of course, there was the whole trend where every male was toxic. And now you're wondering why the youth are withdrawing, especially young men.
Yeah.
There was a whole campaign to denigrate black men decades before white boys became toxic in the public imagination. And I think you have to add the two together.
And the thing is that Passport Bros was a black male initiative. A lot of this stuff was actually black male initiated. Okay, much like when I was young, right? Maybe 3% of black men actually married out. Okay, now it's 25.
Yeah, the numbers have changed.
The numbers are accelerating.
You have 5 kids that are the same age.
Correct.
So you had a good year.
I mean, yeah, I guess you could say that in
You got 5 different women pregnant in the same year.
Correct.
Wow. Have you changed your behavior?
I mean, I don't have any other kids outside, other than her.
What's so good about Passport Bros is that it is a counter narrative to the one that we've grown used to in popular media and continues to be written. When you see a gentleman on a television show and he has 16 baby mothers, 4 of them have multiple kids by him, and then one of the women is looking at him like, why can't you be a better man? And then you start hearing calls for the men that don't have 26 kids to come and help him be a proper father, or better yet, marry the women that he had babies with. It's not something that guys want to sign up for. What men want to sign up for, or at least the new black men more and more, is this. A woman that understands that a man is going to have a certain place in a relationship, that he expects to run the household a certain way, and more importantly than all of it, he's going to have to go to her father's house and ask for her hand in marriage. Patriarchy. Order. You heard the one story of the young lady who was dating a man off and on for 5 years, breaks up with him in January, gets a new boyfriend in February, and in March, the man is at her house accosting the new man. What happens? He loses his life. A different story of a young lady crying and appealing on camera for someone to come and help her from dealing with the guy who is in and out of jail with a very large bond. And my question again is, under what circumstances did you become acquaintances with this man? I'm not blaming her as a victim. I'm simply saying at the beginning of that, whatever it was that you met that man under, if there was a patriarch in your family, he would have said, you cannot hang out with this kind of guy. Don't talk to him. I'm not even going to allow it. Well, we've cast that out. And so men looking to be the quote unquote stepfather understand that that's folly. It's a trap. And as more and more men, black men, are walking away with passports or looking different directions, you're hearing a kind of howling from many black women because what they're hoping for with their freedom, they're not getting from the men that will give them the order and structure that apparently is becoming more necessary by the day. It's the new reality, and I think we're going to see more of it. But those square guys that weren't making you tingle, they have value, don't they? Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment below. I'll catch you in the next video. Take care, guys.